Week 1 is loaded with huge wide receiver matchups, stars facing tough corners, young guys ready to break out, and I've got the rankings to make sure that you're starting the right ones. What is going on, Headliner Nation? It's Brad Chandler, the Rankings King, and today we're going to be breaking down our top 36 wide receivers for Week 1 of fantasy football. Now, every week we're posting quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end rankings right here on the channel. But if you find yourself wanting more, be sure to become a channel member by hitting that join button just below the video. And as members, you're going to get kicker, defense, flex rankings that you don't want to miss. Plus, it gets you into our Discord, which is next level. And enough of that. Hey, let's get into tier 1 of our wide receiver rankings. Tier 1, we've got Ja'Marr Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Malik Nabers, Nico Collins, Drake London, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brian Thomas Jr., and Puka Nacua. First, we've got Ja'Marr Chase going up against Cleveland. And listen, no one is expecting a repeat of the Triple Crown season from last year, but we know that Chase is heavily targeted, a touchdown magnet, and last year, he didn't score less than 13.5 fantasy points against the Browns, and that's why he is at number 1. Next up, we've got CeeDee Lamb going against Philadelphia, and there's a lot of questions surrounding the target share of CeeDee Lamb with George Pickens now in the mix, but with a healthy Dak, a below-average run game, and a tough Philly matchup, Lamb is going to be relied upon. Next up, we've got Justin Jefferson going against those Chicago Bears. And there's no question that Jefferson and his new quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, is going to be a high producer. He's produced with every quarterback that he's had, and now he gets the Monday night spotlight, and this Vikings-Bears game could turn into a shootout. Hey, can I offer you a side of Malik Nabers going against the Washington Football Commanders? Last year, Malik Nabers, he put up 19 catches, 186 yards, and 1 touchdown against Washington with Daniel Jones. So moving to Russ is a huge upgrade, and this offense didn't add anybody else to take away targets, so we like Malik Nabers there. Next up, we've got Nico Collins going against the Rams, and when Nico has been healthy over the last 2 seasons, he has been by far Stroud's number 1 target. Sure, Houston, they've added some pieces, but when you pair the volume with the big playability, a healthy Nico Collins is locked in to tier number 1. How about some Drake London going against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? The last 3 weeks of 2024, when Michael Penix Jr. started, London averaged 13 targets, 7 receptions, and 117 yards a game. Now he starts off 2025 with a match up against Tampa, who he hung 154 yards on in a game last year. Next, we've got Amon-Ra St. Brown. And fun fact, Amon-Ra hasn't had a 100-yard receiving game against Green Bay since the 2021 season. This guy, he racks up targets and receptions in the offense, though, and so he has 22 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons. And I gotta say, that's about as solid as it gets. Next up, we've got Brian Thomas Jr. going against my Carolina Panthers, and he led a lot of people to wins down the stretch in 2024. And now he's got more competition for targets, but he still gets a decent matchup week 1 against Carolina. And then rounding out tier 1, we've got Puka Nacua, and it is time to see what Puka can do with the best wide receiver he's had opposite of him in the last 2 years. Puka's going to still be highly involved, no doubt, but are we looking at 7 to 9 targets, 10 plus targets? We still see him as a low-end tier 1 guy. Next, we've got tier 2. These are your rock-solid wide receivers. We've got Mike Evans, A.J. Brown, Ladd McConkey, T. Higgins, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, King Tet McMillan, Jackson Smith Njigba, DJ Moore, Xavier Worthy, and Cortland Sutton. And so Mike Evans, hey, it's death taxes in Mike Evans. A great matchup against Atlanta to start the season. Godwin's out. Jalen McMillan is out. Cade Otton isn't 100%. And that means that there are going to be tons of targets going the way of Mike Evans and Emeka Egbuka. All right. Next up, we've got A.J. Brown, and he hasn't done much this preseason with a hamstring injury, but there is a chance that he's throttled back some, and Philly has some other weapons, so they may not need him as much to beat Dallas, and that is why he is in tier number 2. So what about Ladd McConkey? What happens to Ladd's targets with the arrival and the return of Keenan Allen? This week, we don't really think it matters. They're going to need both of those guys to beat Kansas City, and the big plays may be limited, but the volume should still be there. How about T. Higgins going against the Cleveland Browns? When Higgins is healthy, we know that he has Verge wide receiver 1 upside in the Cincinnati offense. Chase draws a lot of attention, and Higgins can be a huge red zone threat, and he scored in both games against Cleveland last year as well. And then next up, we've got Tyreek Hill. And really, he's the ultimate what if in fantasy this year. People have been so uneasy about him, and it's a great week 1 matchup, and over the last 2 years, Tyreek has gone off, exploded on week 1, averaging over 30 fantasy points. Next, we've got Davante Adams going against the Houston Texans, and the concern this offseason was really surrounding the health of Matthew Stafford's back. And it sounds like he's going to be playing week 1, which is all we really need to have Adams at a high wide receiver 2 this week. At 16, we've got King Tet McMillan. In Carolina, they shipped out Adam Thielen, and Jalen Coker, he went to injured reserve. And now they've brought back Hunter Renfrow, and things are lined up for a huge target share right off of the bat for the rookie, especially in a good matchup like this. We love King Tet. Next up, we've got JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Last year, JSN ate out of the slot, but how did things change this year with the addition of Cooper Kupp, who over the years has been a slot guy himself? Could JSN see a little bit more outside work, which could lower his ceiling to start? Next up, we've got DJ Moore facing the Minnesota Vikings. There are so many offensive options in Chicago, and it's truly impossible to know what the target shares are going to look like. But what we do know is that this is a game that has the potential to be a shootout, and Moore tends to have the safest floor. Next up, we've got Xavier Worthy of the Kansas City Chiefs, and with the suspension of Rashee Rice, you have to think that Worthy starts off how he finished in 2024, somewhere in the vicinity of 8 targets a week. He remains somewhat touchdown dependent, but he gets at least 1 chance weekly at that big play. Next up, we've got Courtland Sutton, and really, there's not much to hate about Courtland Sutton in week 1 against Tennessee. Honestly, I'm more worried about Denver getting an early lead and, running in the second half, and of course, Ingram and Mims being in the mix keeps Sutton right at that wide receiver 2 rank. All right, that's it for tier 2. Moving on to tier 3, we've got Scary Terry, Marvin Harrison Jr., Garrett Wilson, Emeka Egbuka, George Pickens, DK Metcalf, Jameson Williams, Deebo Samuel Sr., and Ricky Pearsall. First, we've got Scary Terry going against the New York Football Giants. 2 of Terry's worst yardage games, actually, in 2024 came against this Giants defense. And in 2 games, he had a total of 41 yards receiving. And he still managed to find the end zone twice. Now, of course, Deebo's involved now, and that limits the touchdown upside. And so that's why we have Scary Terry properly ranked right there. All right, next we've got Marvin Harrison Jr. And the big question here is Marv actually going to be able to get targets this season? He's bulked up. Come on, he looks great. He has the tools to be an outside wide receiver, and all he needs is the targets. And so we have to think we see a slight increase in 2025. How about Garrett Wilson going against the Pittsburgh Steelers? And it's great that he basically is the only show in town for the Jets passing game. But it's not that great that we need to rely on Justin Fields in a matchup against one of the best defenses in football in week 1. With the unknown, we are just being super cautious here. All right, at 24, we've got Emeka Egbuka. And listen, we are trying not to buy into the hype too much. Everybody calm down. But everything is just set for Egbuka to produce immediately. You've got Godwin out, McMillan out, and a great matchup against Atlanta in week 1. So we're not overbuying the hype, but we still have him in the top 24. And then number 25, we've got George Pickens. We love this move to Dallas. And so the run game, it's below average. The defense, it's gotten worse. And the Cowgirls are going to be playing from behind a lot and throwing constantly. And so all of this benefits George Pickens. Hey, how about DK Metcalf going up against the Jets this week? I have no doubt that he's going to be the top option for Aaron Rodgers this year. But opening on the road against the Jets and Sauce Gardner, that's tough. The most concerning part is that Arthur Smith barely got Pickens targets. And so how does he handle DK? Next up, we've got Jameson Williams taking on Green Bay. And he took a huge step forward last year and has a chance to do it again in 2025. The emergence of rookie wide receiver Isaac Tesla does potentially limit some of the season-long upside, but he should still be a decent, high-ceiling play in Week 1. Next up, we've got Deebo Samuel Sr. Deebo is going to be used all over the field in this offense, and he's going to have a chance at more big chunk plays. No more getting everything at or behind the line of scrimmage. He is going to be a safety outlet here against a tough Giants front. Next up, we've got Ricky Pearsall, and he enters Week 1 as the 49ers wide receiver 1. Brandon Ayuk is out. Jennings, hurt. Demarcus Robinson has been hurt. And Purdy's going to have no choice to throw to Pearsall against a solid Seattle defense. And so that rounds out Tier 3. Next up, we've got Tier 4. We've got Rome Odunze, Jerry Jeudy, Devontae Smith, Zay Flowers, Jalen Waddle, Calvin Ridley, and Chris Olave. First up, we've got Rome Odunze. You know, a lot of fantasy owners, they want to see what this new Bears offense is going to look like. And while Odunze may not get huge volume, he could play like a Mike Evans style role where he racks up big plays and tutties while getting some lower volume. Next up, we've got Jerry Jeudy. And I know Taylor's not going to like this, but I don't necessarily love Jerry Jeudy. But having Joe Flacco under center, it sure does help. And it also helps that they're going to be going against Cincy's defense and will more than likely be playing from behind in this game. Next up, we've got Devontae Smith going against the Dallas Cowboys. And last year, we saw Philly throw the ball a lot less. And while that may change slightly this year, I don't see them having to air it out all game in order to beat Dallas. We could be looking at a lot of second half running in this game. So we have Devontae there in Tier 4. Next up, we've got Zay Flowers going against the Buffalo Bills. And while I do think this game has the potential to get out of hand and turn it into a high-scoring game, it's impossible to know how the targets are going to be split in this lower volume passing offense. Hopkins was added, and Bateman and Andrews are still in the mix. So we've got Zay Flowers there at 33. Next up, we've got Jalen Waddle going against Indianapolis, and there's been so much disappointment in recent memory with Waddle. But coming into Week 1, Tua is healthy, and that always gives Waddle the best chance. It's not a bad matchup against Indianapolis either, and it's just so many other receivers, though, that we would feel better about. Next up, we've got Calvin Ridley. Now, we've talked about Ridley a lot this offseason, and we do think he has a great chance at a great season. However, it starts off against a shutdown corner like Patrick Surtain, and that is how we say less than ideal. And then next up, we've got Chris Olave rounding out our top 36. And we know that Olave is capable of being so much higher in the rankings, but the quarterback play in New Orleans is just so bad. And so until we see it on the field in Week 1, it's going to be hard to rank him higher. So you might be like, hey, where's my wide receiver? I didn't see him on this list. And listen, that shows you how deep this wide receiver pool is this year. Even with 36 names ranked, there are still some really competent players just on the outside looking in. So here's just a few of those guys. Stephon Diggs, Travis Hunter, Jacoby Myers, Matthew Golden, Michael Pittman Jr., Khalil Shakir, Cooper Kupp, right? Those are the guys on the outside looking in, and they could be rising up the rankings. So that's your wide receiver rankings for Week 1. Hey, let us know. How do we do? Who's too high? Who do you think's too low? Who is the guy you're going to be relying on this year on your fantasy team? Hey, drop your takes in the comments below. Smash smash that like button, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end rankings every single week. Come on, let's go get that championship belt, Headliner Nation. Appreciate you. Let's go.
Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game.